My driveway was constantly blocked by someone who insisted they had the right to park there. When I had their car towed, they left a note on my door that read, "You just made a huge mistake." Furious, I took the matter to court, and when they realized their petty feud had just cost them thousands in legal fees, their jaw dropped as they whispered, "I didn't think you'd actually fight back. I'm living in Chicago, and I own a small home in a decent neighborhood. It's not fancy, but I worked hard for it. The kind of place where everyone mostly minds their own business. I've got a single driveway, narrow, barely fits my car. It connects to a little alley that opens up to the street. It's clearly part of my property. It's on the deed. It's mine. But apparently, my neighbor didn't get the memo. Let's call him Jake. Mid-30s, smug, always blasting music, always standing around outside pretending like he owns the whole block. He rents the unit next door from an absentee landlord who doesn't care what happens there. Jake decided, out of nowhere, that my driveway was just as much his as it was mine. It started small. I'd come home to find his car halfway blocking my driveway. Not completely, just enough that I had to awkwardly back in or out. At first, I figured maybe it was a mistake. "Hey man," I said the first time, trying to be polite. "You're kinda in my driveway." Jake just shrugged. "I'm only gonna be a minute." That minute turned into hours. This happened again. And again. Sometimes, I'd come home from work, tired as hell, and his damn car would be there. Fully parked. No one around. No way to pull in. I'd have to park on the street, blocks away. I talked to him calmly. I wrote a note. Nothing worked. The last straw was when he blocked me in completely and I missed a doctor's appointment. That's when I stopped asking nicely. I had pictures. Timestamped. Videos. I contacted the landlord. He didn't care. I called the non-emergency police line. They said it was a civil matter, unless the car was on public property. The alley was public. My driveway? Private. Jake kept doing it. I warned him. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "If your car is in my driveway again, I'm towing it." He laughed. He actually laughed in my face. "Good luck with that," he said. "I've got every right to park there. It's not like you own the street." "I own the driveway," I said. He turned and walked away. So next time he did it, which didn't take long, I made good on my promise. I called a tow truck, showed them the property line on the plat map, and watched his car disappear down the block. That night, there was a knock on my door. I didn't answer. I'm not stupid. The next morning, I found a note stuck under the door. All caps, black marker, written fast. "You just made a huge mistake." No signature. No details. Just that one line. I didn't take it lightly. I kept a folder of everything. Every photo, every timestamped video, every call I'd made to the police and landlord. I went down to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order and small claims for trespassing and interference with property. I even contacted a property lawyer I found through a friend. Jake, of course, didn't think I'd follow through. Next time I saw him outside, I told him flat out, "You're getting sued." He laughed again. "You serious?" "Dead serious." He rolled his eyes and muttered, "Whatever, man." 2 weeks later, he was served at his doorstep. That's when things got ugly. He started yelling whenever I walked outside. He'd slam things around just to make noise. His friends would park near my place and stare. One night, someone egged my house. I installed cameras. I reported every incident. He still thought I wouldn't go through with it. At the hearing, he walked in wearing sunglasses indoors like it was a joke. The judge wasn't amused. I had everything laid out. Maps, documents, timestamps, even video of him telling me he had the right to use my driveway. When the judge asked if he had permission to park there, Jake just said, "Well, it's a shared space, right?" "No," I said. "It's not." The judge looked over the documents. Asked Jake if he had a lease. He did. Asked him if it said anything about shared driveways. It didn't. Then came the fine. Legal fees. A restraining order. The judge ruled it was my property and said he had no right to interfere. Jake just sat there, pale, mouth open. Didn't say a word until the judge was done. Then he whispered, like he couldn't believe it, "I didn't think you'd actually fight back." I haven't seen his car near my driveway since. But that's not where this ends. You'd think after losing in court, Jake would back off. Most people would. But not this guy. At first, everything went quiet. No yelling. No parking games. No trash thrown near my place. I thought maybe he got the message. Maybe the legal fees shook some sense into him. Then weird stuff started happening. First, my mailbox got ripped off. I found it crushed near the alley, like someone had stomped it flat. I replaced it, filed a report, added it to the growing folder. Next week, someone keyed my car. Deep, jagged lines all the way across the driver's side. Insurance didn't cover vandalism. That came out of my pocket. I checked my cameras, but whoever did it kept their face out of sight. Still, I had a pretty good guess. I called the police again. Gave them everything. They said without video or a witness, there wasn't much they could do. I nodded, but inside I was boiling. I upgraded the cameras. Installed motion lights. Got a doorbell cam too. Turned my home into a fortress. If Jake wanted a war, fine. But this time, I'd have proof. A few nights later, I caught movement on my back camera. Someone sneaking through the alley toward my garage. I flipped on the lights and ran out yelling. The guy took off. Couldn't see his face, but he was wearing Jake's hoodie. Same one he always strutted around in. Gray with red sleeves. Next morning, I found my trash bins tipped over and something dead thrown inside. A freaking dead squirrel. Who does that? I was done playing games. I called my lawyer and asked if I could press charges for harassment or stalking. He said I'd need real proof. So I got to work. Over the next few weeks, I kept track of everything. I built a solid paper trail. Every noise complaint, every little act of damage, every time I saw Jake lurking near my property. Then, something I didn't expect happened. One morning, I saw a different car parked in front of Jake's house. New license plates. Later that day, I saw a woman walk out. Early 60s, tight bun, clipboard in hand. She walked up to Jake's door, knocked hard, and stood there waiting. He opened it, and I watched from my window. She handed him papers. Lots of them. Turns out, Jake was behind on rent. His landlord, after months of me calling and reporting him, was finally evicting him. I'll admit it, I smiled. But the smile didn't last. That night, my motion sensor caught something big. Not a person this time, fire. My trash bin was on fire. I ran out with a hose, doused it, called 911. They sent a fire truck and the cops. It didn't damage anything besides the bin, but that was it. That was the final straw. The next day, I handed everything to the police and my lawyer. Every clip, every detail, every report. We added arson to the list. Jake got a visit from detectives 2 days later. He acted surprised. Said he had nothing to do with it. Said he was asleep that night. But the timing? The hoodie? The months of back and forth. Everyone knew. The court case got reopened. New charges, new evidence. This time, it wasn't just about a driveway. It was criminal now. Jake's landlord gave him a deadline to move out. And here's the twist. Jake didn't leave quietly. 3 days before the deadline, I got home from work and found something in my driveway. A box. Just sitting there, right in the middle. Inside, dozens of photos. Of me. Taken from different angles. Me walking to my car. Me mowing the lawn. Me talking to neighbors. Even me inside my house, through the windows. Some were old. Some were recent. All of them taken without me knowing. I called the cops again. Gave them the box. The photos. I was shaking. I felt sick. This wasn't about parking anymore. This guy had been watching me. For months. Jake was arrested the next day. But the damage was already done. And I had no idea what he still had planned. After Jake got arrested, the neighborhood felt quiet again. Eerily quiet. I kept to myself, locked all the doors, checked my cameras every night. The photos he left behind haunted me. The angles. The way he'd watched me without me knowing. But part of me was relieved. He was finally gone. Evicted. Charged. Off my property. Or so I thought. 2 weeks went by. Then I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. Inside, it said, "Be careful who you trust." Jake was only the beginning. That's when I realized someone else was involved. At first, I thought it was just him. A petty neighbor who got in over his head. But now, it looked bigger. There were names in the letter. A few I didn't recognize. But one jumped out, Calder Realty. I'd seen that name before on the "For Rent" sign in front of Jake's building. That was the name of his landlord's company. The one I'd been calling for months. The one that ignored me. I dug deeper. Public records, business filings, anything I could find online. And there it was. Jake wasn't just a random tenant. He was the nephew of the owner of Calder Realty. The same guy who owned 4 other properties on my block. Suddenly everything made sense. The landlord not responding to complaints. Jake acting like he owned the place. The drawn-out eviction. The weird sense of arrogance like he was untouchable. He wasn't just some punk neighbor. He was planted. I wasn't just fighting Jake. I'd been fighting an entire shady real estate company trying to control the neighborhood. It got worse. A neighbor, Mrs. Hall, sweet old lady 2 doors down, stopped me one afternoon. She asked if I was the guy who took Jake to court. I said yeah. She looked nervous. "He said they were going to buy your house out one way or another," she whispered. "Said you were holding up their plans." Plans? I asked her what she meant. She said a guy from the realty company had offered her cash for her house, under the table, months ago. Said they were trying to buy up all the homes on the block. Flip them. Turn the whole area into luxury rentals. But I hadn't sold. I wasn't moving. And that made me a problem. That's when the right to park argument started. It wasn't about a driveway. It was pressure. It was harassment. And Jake, he was just the first tool they used. I was furious. I played it fair, legal, clean. And they tried to push me out with threats, noise, sabotage, even fire. So I pushed back harder. I filed a formal complaint with the city, backed by my lawyer. Zoning violations. Harassment. Illegal surveillance. I shared everything with local news and our alderman. Suddenly, people were paying attention. Then the final twist dropped. I got a call from a detective. Turns out, Jake had confessed to more than I thought. He told them he wasn't the one who came up with the idea to block the driveway. He said his uncle, the owner of Calder Realty, asked him to make my life miserable. Said it was his job to convince me to leave, no matter what. He admitted the photos weren't all his doing either. A guy from the company had set up cameras near the alley. That's how they got shots of me inside the house. That was the final blow. Now this wasn't just neighbor drama. It was corporate stalking. My case went from small claims to full-blown civil litigation. Calder Realty was now facing serious charges: privacy invasion, attempted coercion, destruction of property, conspiracy. And me? I wasn't just some guy with a blocked driveway anymore. I was the one person who stood up, and now they were the ones scrambling to hide their tracks. And just when I thought they were out of moves, they made one last, desperate play. When I found out that Calder Realty had been spying on me and using Jake as their pawn, I knew they weren't going to give up easy. People like that, ones with money and power, don't like losing to regular folks. And I was a regular guy, but I was done playing nice. The court case went public. Local news stations picked up the story: Chicago man fights back against shady landlords. The footage from my cameras, the photos Jake left behind, the evidence that someone had set the fire, it all became part of the public record. People started coming forward. A woman on the next block said Calder tried to force her out by sending fake code violations. A man down the street claimed they offered him $10,000 to sell cash, no paperwork. Same pattern. Same tricks. Only now, people were speaking up. And I had them all behind me. The city launched an investigation into Calder Realty. Turns out, they've been bending rules for years. Illegal surveillance, unlicensed contracting, under-the-table payments. What they did to me was just the tip of the iceberg. The final nail came when the city slapped them with over $100,000 in fines and revoked several of their rental licenses. Their reputation? Gone. Their tenants? Leaving in droves. Jake? He got off easier than he deserved, but not untouched. Part of his deal for confessing was a lighter sentence, but he still got slapped with probation, community service, and a permanent restraining order from being within 200 feet of my house. He moved to another part of the city, and I haven't seen him since. As for me, I sued Calder Realty for invasion of privacy, harassment, and emotional distress. I won. They settled out of court for a sum I can't legally share, but let's just say, I finally fixed my driveway, replaced my car, installed the best home security system in the neighborhood, and still had plenty left to take a long vacation out of state. The neighborhood is peaceful again. People wave when they walk by. My cameras don't catch any strange movements at night. No more blocked driveway. No more burning trash cans. No more threats. And me? Every time I pull into my now wide-open driveway, I smile. Because they thought I'd back down. They thought I'd sell. They thought I'd go away quietly. But instead, I buried their whole operation. One court filing at a time. Just as Sarah said.